Hi, Andy Braams again here. And yesterday, after doing this little thought process about planning and the pause button and reset and all that, Susan said, might make it a little more clear. So I decided to do a follow up video today early and get this posted. So if anybody had any questions, I could do so. So again, the idea is that history has gone on, and I'm going to specifically bring that to the history of our church. And I've included, 136 years in this little bit of span here. So our church started in 1884, but if you're watching this and you're not a part of Fairfax Baptist Church, the same thing applies to you, okay? Your church started at some point, and in March 2020, we hit the halt button. Now, I know not every church has stopped meeting and everything, but regardless, things have changed. And so what I'm doing with this little exercise is trying to help us to understand that most change is incremental. A lot of change, not most maybe, but a lot of change is incremental. We see little bits of pieces here and there, and it'd be like a parent watching their child growing up. And so, it's a small baby and grows into a toddler and grows into a child, and the parent looks and they see, wow, all of a sudden they look, wow, my child's doing this and my child's doing that. And those benchmarks are important, but those are incremental changes that we don't often see. And yet maybe it's a grandparent or it's an aunt or an uncle or a friend who's in a faraway place, and they come to visit, and all of a sudden that child that they held in their hands is now 5 years old. Big change, big difference. Well, we don't know what the difference is going to be on the other side of March 2020 as it relates to the church globally. But again, specifically, we're going to bring this into the context of Fairfax Baptist Church. The longer this goes, however, the longer we are unable to meet, the more drastic the difference is from the last time we met as a church collectively, as a church body on March 15th, 2020, the bigger the changes will be. So right now, if we are to meet back together, and I know this is small, but if we were to meet back together soon in April or May of 2020, there's going to be some moderate change, and we can either change for the better, represented by the green here. Yesterday I used some different colors, but represented by the green, or we can have a negative impact because we're just hoping things are the same. And by the way, hope is never a strategy. You can hope all day, but that doesn't get the job done. So, or we can just slowly, have a little bit of a downturn, and maybe we can pick back up over time. So we've hit the pause button, right? March 15th, 2020 is the last time we've met, and we don't know when we're going to get to hit the play button again. But if it happens much longer, it's not just pause, because as I mentioned yesterday, if we hit pause, like on any kind of media, we just hit the play button and it picks up exactly where it is, and that's represented by this little blue line that continues to go. But the longer this happens, the longer this delay is, and we could be facing months at this point. We simply do not know. Then there is no more pause. There is a reset. And by reset, you might ask, well, what does that mean? I can't tell you. Okay, I can't tell you for certain, but this is what I can tell you. Anything from June or beyond, we start at a different point. We cannot start right here just as an extension by hitting the play button and going on as we were. So we have two choices as I see it. Things might be fairly similar. The divergence between this might be the starting point might be much bigger, or these points of divergence might continue to grow even further apart. But anytime from June or beyond, this becomes our reality. And the longer this is, June, July, August, the wider this is probably going to be. But either we can respond by growing and being prepared for it, or we can respond by declining. Now, here's the reality. There are many churches, through no fault of their own, if they were to be able to meet this week, they wouldn't be able to meet because their doors are already closed. They were living week to week by the offerings that came in. And that's a tragedy, but it is a reality, okay? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to speak from a reality, but also to provide us, I'm not just an eternal optimist. I am optimistic, but we have to look at reality as well, okay? And I'll talk more about that in a subsequent video. But we can look at two different verses for this. Proverbs 20:19 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Now, specifically, that means prophetic vision, that there is no prophetic vision of what the future might hold.
29:18.
So Proverbs 29:18. What did I say?
Something else. Just go.
Okay. On the other hand, we can look at Jeremiah 29:11 through 13. And I know a lot of people have this particular verse as kind of a life verse, and that's okay. But this fits our context much better than it normally does. First off, this was written to a group of people. This was written to the Israelites, but they were in captivity. And in the preceding verse, verse 10, it says, after 70 years, when you've been in captivity for 70 years, let me remind you, for I have plans for you, declares the Lord. Okay? Those plans, they're for welfare. They are not for evil. They are to give you a future and a hope. Now, they knew 70 years. We don't know if coronavirus is 70 days. We don't know if coronavirus is 70 weeks. I mean, let's hope it's not 70 weeks or 70 years, okay? We won't be here for that. But we can take the Lord's instructions that he does not mean anything for our evil. And I would encourage you to go back and watch last night's video, first 15 minutes of our Wednesday night Bible study about the difference between moral and natural evil. And I try to describe that. It all stems from our choices. But as we think about this, a part of moving from no prophetic vision, no vision, and having the people perish to having hope is understanding the reality, but being willing to move from it. You know, President Roosevelt, in his first inaugural address in 1933, he says, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. But on the backside of that, a sentence or two later, or later in that same sentence, he did talk about the challenges that, you know, that there are the unnamed, and some other types. I can't remember all the words right now, but some things in that are keeping us from moving forward. Well, we have a name. We have COVID-19. We have a general understanding. We have some legitimacy for our fear because it's not just economic and everything. It's about our lives. Okay. But what Roosevelt was trying to do in that inaugural address, in the middle, really about the height of the Great Depression, was saying we can get through this. And what I'm standing here to say today is we can get through this, but we have a choice. And what we can't do is we can't say things are going to be normal. We have to start differently. And so as a leader, I must lead. Now, here's the question. Here's the reality for us. Where are we going? I mean, let's just be honest. I really don't know because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. But that doesn't mean that we can't make plans. It doesn't mean that we can't have hope for that future. But one of the things in knowing where we're going is we also must take inventory of where we are starting, where we are at this given moment. And again, right now, we're in this nebulous area. We're somewhere between a stop and a start, and we don't exactly know. And so we're doing things, you know, our church is, you know, we're recording these videos. I'm recording videos almost daily now that relate to this. I haven't done these videos before. My podcast is turned towards these topics a lot more. So we're in this time period where we simply don't know, but where we start again is going to be fundamentally important. And we have a choice as a church, or again, if you're not from our church, you have a choice. We all have a choice. Do we start from a negative point because we're just hoping that it's better in the future than it is right now, than it was in March of 2020? We don't know that it's going to be that. So we can make plans, even if our plans have to change weekly or sometimes daily, and even right now with the news we're getting hourly. We have a choice of where to start, and we can either start right here, and if we do, we're already behind the curve, which means we're going to continue to probably go downward. Or we can say, we have a choice, we have hope, we're not going to fear this long term, and we want to start here and go forward. So my encouragement today is to think about how will you respond, okay? As the leader of Fairfax Baptist Church, my goal is to start here or here or here. Hi. When we hit the play button again, all of this is gone. It's just gone. So what are we going to do to go forward? And I want to start here, and I want you with me. And I'll continue to be talking about some of this in the days ahead. But I wanted to clarify some of my thinking here. I can't tell you exactly where we're going yet, but we're going to plan to be ready to go there faster with a starting point that is better than where we are right now, if we will just be willing to go there. So keep tuning in. Don't know that every video is going to relate to this, but for a while, I'm going to try to give us these encouragements as we move ahead.